What's up, guys? This is Brave, and I'm back with another review of Tyler Perry's Sistas. This is season 2, episode 20. Let's go ahead and talk about it because I know that I missed out on doing a review last week, but honestly, there wasn't really much to the episode, so I might do just a few little tidbits mixed in with this review. So let's go ahead and get it started. So we start this episode off with Andy getting her ass beat. That's pretty much what happened. She's, first of all, having this long-winded dialogue with Jasmine. They're over here going back and forth about how, oh my God, it's not the real ring because he gave me a ring. Tell your friends what he told you at my house and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, girl, you need to think of a game plan of how you can get out of this situation. Instead of you out here yelling about how I know all the top judges, I know all the lawyers, I'm going to put you in jail. Andy, you should have been trying to run. You should have been trying to find some type of something that you could attack one of these girls with. Like, girl, you didn't have nothing in your bag that you could have hit somebody with. You didn't have a bottle of water at least to throw at somebody, splash on their face. You could have did something. That ain't what happened. So you have Jasmine. She basically told her friends to beat Andy up like as if she's like their master and they're like some dogs on attack. Like, sick her. Like, I was like, what is happening here? Next thing you know, Fatima pull up and then we just escalate to her pulling a gun out. I'm like, how did we get here? But I will say, luckily, Fatima did have, Andy's back, and she had the girls, get on, and that was that. But next thing you know, they're having a conversation, and Andy is like, why are you just rolling around with a gun? And she's like, I'm a single woman in Atlanta. You gotta stay strapped. I was like, well, she has a point. So then what got me also was that Andy was like, yeah, because they got the right one. Did they? No, I think she said they got the wrong one today or something. I'm like, girl, you were getting beat up. Stop talking like as if it wasn't for Fatima, who has to save you every chance that she get, you would not be laid out on the ground somewhere. So they have a discussion about how Andy was looking toe up because her clothes was all messed up now. She's like, oh, I'm going to go back to my house and I'm going to change or whatever. So they go ahead, separate. Fatima about to get back in her car, because she like pulled up. She didn't even park, okay? So who decided to get out the car? Hayden. So you mean to tell me your raggedy black ass was sitting in that car this entire time that these girls was jumping Andy? You was sitting in your car through the entire argument that these girls had, and you didn't try to stop it, even though she's another lawyer at the law firm that you work at? Talking about some, because I recorded the whole thing. If you don't get your old punk ass somewhere, I'm sorry, but I cannot stand Hayden. Because how did you know that Fatima was going to pull up? You so busy worried about what Fatima doing and how, Fatima pulling out a gun, that looks so bad. But you sat there and let Andy get beat up. Really? That's what you gonna do? No respect for that man. Okay, so the next scene we have Maurice. He is at work, and here comes Jacoby over here offering him a cup of coffee. I'm trying to figure out what's his obsession with the coffee and keep offering people coffee. Like, sir, get you some business. Oh, my bad. He decided that he wanted to know all of Sabrina's business. So him and Maurice have this conversation. First of all, Maurice notices that he keeps calling Sabrina Bree. He's like, who is Bree? He's like, oh, Sabrina. I'm like, okay, now you think it's cute. You give her a little nickname. Whatever. So they end up talking about how Calvin... Oh, let me actually backtrack because, like I said, I did not do a review on the previous episode. So we had Maurice. He was at home and he heard all these noises, right? So, of course, he thinks that it's Calvin. And there's this guy who comes out of the room and So he even has a conversation with this guy. Can't even remember what his name was, but it was like this dark skinned guy who he does meth, and he had like a full blown conversation with Maurice about what he was doing in the room with the guy and all this stuff. So what does Maurice do? He goes back to tell Sabrina. So he told Sabrina, like, hey, your boy Calvin, he was in a room with a guy. What does Sabrina do? She hop on her phone and call Calvin talking about I know who you are. Maurice told me what you were doing. You could have just told me that you were gay. Blah, 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 blah. She left him this long-winded voicemail. Like, Sabrina, get a grip. So Calvin ended up showing up to her job. Like, I need to talk to Sabrina right now. So they end up confronting each other. There was no resolve, as in Calvin saying it wasn't him. They ended up deleting each other's numbers, and that was that. So now we come back full circle here to Maurice. He's telling Jacoby about what happened. Oh, I'm sorry. No, Jacoby was trying to put the pieces together for Maurice. Talking about, so that dude who came up in here, he hooked up with another dude while they dated. I'm like, Jacoby, go get you some business. Go find you something to do at this bank. I'm sorry, but this is the most empty bank I've ever seen in my life. Like, it ain't the first of the month. People ain't got to come cash their checks. Can we get some customers or something? I cannot. So, next thing you know, this guy walks into the bank, and I mean, I don't know what that outfit was he had on, but baby, that was like a rainbow special. I don't know what that was. So, he's just like, oh, hey, Maurice, or whatever. Thanks, basically saying, thanks for letting me use your room. Putting two and two together, this guy was the guy who was using Calvin's room, talking about because I know where you leave the key, and you know that I'll use your house to cheat on my boyfriend, blah, 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 whatever. We already knew that it was not Calvin in that room, first of all. But now, Maurice, he realized that, like, wait, I just made a huge mess, because now you have Sabrina thinking that Calvin is gay. Calvin is pissed off because none of this has anything to do with him. And all of this is because of Maurice's friend. Now, I just have a few questions, because if we're really going to run with this storyline that it was it was Maurice's friend who hooked up with this guy, who did Calvin meet up with at the bar? Because on the previous episode, maybe the one before the last one, they were talking about how, Calvin was here. He was talking to some guy who was dark skinned, blah, 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 blah. Calvin does not look nothing like Maurice's friend Bootsy. So, or whatever his name was, I think it's Bootsy. So who was Calvin meeting up with? Also, the fact that the guy was like, I do meth. You just got to do it slowly. We do meth. And I'm like, wait, so Maurice, your friend does meth? Like, I'm sorry, but there's no way you're going to confuse Calvin with this guy Bootsy. I'm confused. Can somebody please tell me what was happening where the bartenders must have gotten him mixed up with Calvin? I digress. Next thing you know, Sabrina ends up coming in. Now that Maurice has, figured this out, he has to try to figure out how he can make this situation right. So he runs out talking about he going on his break because he can't even handle it. He can't even face Sabrina because he know that he put the battery in her back to diss Calvin. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this next scene, which is Andy on the phone with Gary. Just a little tidbit, because I, again, did not review the previous episode, but I still want to talk about it. Gary ended up giving Andy a ring, right? Baby girl was so tempted on the last episode, so she puts this ring on, and the ring ends up tightening on her finger. Oh, why does it do that? Because it's some type of engagement ring to where the groom's ring is the key. I said, Tyler, they don't even make that in real life. If you don't cut it out, that sounds crazy. And it would be a ring that comes from Gary that's like this. So basically, she's been trying to get him to meet up with her so that he can unlock this ring. So she gets on the phone with Gary, and she's just like, oh, I know we were supposed to meet up at my job, but I actually had to come back home for something. Meet me at my house. Okay, cool. So she get a knock at the door, right? Knock at the door. It's the police officer who we've seen on like a couple of episodes at this point. He comes in. She's already written a report. And she's like, okay, here's all the stuff that you need to know about the incident. Here is the person whose name, I think it was Jasmine, whatever her last name is. I want to press charges against her. I'm like, okay, cool. I love the fact that Andy wants to press charges against Jasmine, even though she didn't even mention it to Gary on the phone, that his crazy wife, or ex-wife, just attacked her. Okay, cool. So, the police officer surprised me because he was just very strange. First of all, even when he first came in, it was a lot of like, are you okay? Are you okay? Like, the name of this show really should be called Are You Okay? Because they asked that question so many times this episode, and actually in every episode. But I digress. So, he's sitting over here talking about are you some type of lawyer? Blah, blah, blah. She like, yeah. Next thing you know, he thought this was his moment to shine. It was his time for him to spit the best game that he could to try to get her number. I'm like, what is this? He over talking about, yeah, because I just feel like if I ever got the chance that I would, try to give you my phone number. I'm like, what is this, Tyler? Can this man just do his job? Like, one thing that aggravates me about Andy's character is that Andy is always the it girl. Like, it doesn't matter what the man does. It don't matter who he is. He can be he can work at a diner. He can be a lawyer. He can be the dude a janitor. Don't matter what his occupation is. Andy is just like the hottest woman, and they all have to like try to get at her. I'm over that now. You're not going to be attracted to every man, okay? Every man does not have to look at Andy and be like, ooh, I want Andy. It's annoying at this point. Okay, so now we have Maurice. He made it home. He's having a conversation with Calvin. So where Calvin is like, listen, what did you tell Sabrina? So Maurice has to go over the whole story about how he thought that it was Calvin, come to find out that it wasn't Calvin. And Calvin is like, listen, I'm not gay. Why would you even think that it was me? Like, all this stuff, which I completely understand why Calvin is upset. Maurice is trying to make it right, but honestly, if this was to happen in the real world, if I was Calvin, I would be pissed. Because, like, you basically spread a rumor, and it's because of your friend. First of all, why is your friend even coming to your house to hook up with somebody else, like, casually? Don't even give you a heads up, no nothing. Like, that's disrespectful in itself. So, we can clearly see that Calvin still has some type of feelings for Sabrina, even though when Maurice asked him, like, oh, so you didn't come here? He's like, no, I wasn't here last night. I was out with that girl all night. And I'm just like, wait, so you were out with another woman all night? All night. So you probably hooked up with her, right? But you out here worried about Sabrina not committing. You know what? I don't even care about Sabrina and Calvin. They get on my nerves. I don't think that they're a good match for each other. I think that he don't know what he wants. She don't know what she wants. I'm over it. Oh, but let's go ahead and finish this out because we have to talk about now Maurice has to tell Sabrina what happened. So he goes to her office and Sabrina is going on and on again about how if you're gay, you're gay. It's okay to be gay. Gay is gay when gay is gay. I'm like, this script, I cannot. But my issue with Sabrina, again, is that y'all not even together. Why does it matter? If he hooks up with somebody after y'all were not together, it doesn't matter if it was a guy, a girl, it doesn't matter because y'all are not together. Like, so annoying. So Maurice is like, oh my gosh, this is a funny story. Actually, it was my friend. It wasn't Calvin, blah, blah, blah. So now she out here looking stupid. So now she pissed off and she just ends up leaving out the room. I'm like, yeah, you should feel stupid because there's no reason why after you got the information from Maurice, there should have never been an inkling in your mind that you would go and call Calvin and then leave that terrible, nasty voicemail that you left him. Like, girl, get a clue. All right, so now we see Zach and Danny. They are at work, and Zach is basically asking Danny, like, hey, did you already tell your homegirl that it was not me who, ran up her credit or whatever he was supposed to do, make those charges? And Danny's like, I tried to tell her. And he's like, you know what, forget it. I'm going to go ahead and tell her myself because, he wants his name to be cleared and blah, blah, blah. So as they're having this conversation, who decides to roll up? Sabrina. And I'm just like, shouldn't you be at the bank? You have a whole job. Why are you just able to hop in a car, drive down to the airport just so that you can go talk to your friend? Girl, you act like phones don't exist. Really, girl? So Zach takes that as his exiting music. He leaves, still talking about how he gonna tell Karen himself. And now here comes sad face Sabrina. Oh God. So Danny has to let her know that, Zach is upset because he went to jail behind this whole credit card fraud stuff. And I'm like, Sabrina, did your homegirl ever find out any information? Did we forget about that storyline? Because I feel like Zach's name could have been cleared by now if your homegirl would have came through with information stating that it actually wasn't him. But I digress. So she's basically down there so that she can whine about her and Calvin. So she's just going on and on about how, and it was the fact that it was Maurice's friend, and I called him a liar, and I called him gay, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like Danny at this point. Like, girl, I don't want to hear this. I don't even care about this situation anymore. Why are you making this into a thing? Also, the fact that Danny has been the only one with any type of common sense these last 2 episodes really says a lot. Because on the last episode, when Karen was trying to round the girls up, talking about, so we need to go over to Andy's house and we need to tell her that it's wrong for her to be with Gary. And Danny had to tell him the truth. Like, she not about to listen to us, first of all. We just gonna have to let her fall where she is. And that's definitely the truth, because in this episode, we see that Andy is over here head over heels for Gary. So when she talks to Sabrina right now, she's basically having to tell Sabrina, like, girl, you need to let it go. You don't even really like this man. And what type of man tells you, oh, I want, us to be in a committed relationship, and then the next day, he out here with another woman? How does that make any sense? Why are you out here chasing this? Like, didn't we all learn from TLC, don't go chasing waterfalls? Let it go, girl. All right, so we next see Karen. She's at her salon, and Erin ends up showing up. Of course, that puts a smile on her face because she loves when Erin comes over. So they end up going into her office, and they have a conversation about how Karen doesn't know how long she's going to be able to hold off from, sleeping with Erin. And she's having this conversation while he is rubbing her feet, which I'm pretty sure that felt amazing because, as we all know, that Karen does hair, and those people stay on their feet all the time, like the whole day. Anyways, so she says that she's going to possibly reach out to that one lady who came into the shop. I think she was like a pastor or like a pastor's wife, just to see how, she was able to do the whole process of abstaining. And that was pretty much that. Oh, wait, actually, he did say that they could possibly talk about them doing something over dinner. And she was like kind of happy about that. And next thing you know, we see that Zach has showed up to her job, okay, because he's pissed off. He wants to talk to Karen, and next thing you know, Karen ends up walking out, and, she confronts Zach. Well, he confronts her, like, no, we need to talk. And she's like, no, we've already said all the things that we need to say. And he's like, no, because I just went to jail. And Karen's response is, okay, well, good. Because she really thinks that Zach is the one who did this. So Zach is like, dude, like, you just gonna stand there the whole time? Because Aaron is standing right next to Karen. And she's like, no, I'm sorry. Aaron had asked Karen, oh, you want me to leave or whatever? And she's like, yeah, you can go ahead. I got this. Next thing you know, they end up going to her office. And here goes a yelling match with Zach, because the only thing about Zach is that I feel like he's always yelling and whining all at the same time. And I'm just like, sir, could you not? So he's going off about how he would never do this to her. He would never try to hurt Karen for all the stuff that she's done for him. Telling her to look at me. You really believe that I would do this? Blah, blah, blah. And she's like, yeah, this is what the paperwork says. Like, all this stuff, because she feels like he's the one who did it. So he's like, no, I'm trying to, like, get my life right so that way I can give you back everything that you've ever given to me. And then out of nowhere, here comes the because I love you, Karen. I said, that is not what we signed up for. We was just riding for Zach and Fatima. I don't care about no Zach and Karen no more. So we have, Karen falling for Zach, because next thing you know, they start making out, and we already knew what was going to happen next. So let's go ahead and talk about this next scene, which is Andy. She is at home, and next thing you know, Gary shows up. So since Gary showed up, he was able to unlock this ring that was stuck on Andy's finger, and he's like, oh, so, does this mean that we're going to be engaged? And she's just like, I'm still thinking about it or whatever. And then I think he said something about, like, oh, because you're the next Mrs. Borders or something. And she's like, oh, well, speaking of Mrs. Borders, Jasmine actually came to visit me at my job. She attacked me. She tried to jump me, her and two of her homegirls. And of course, what does he ask her? Are you okay? I mean, like, are you okay? I'm just like, if you ask that question one more time, I'm going to scream. So you already know Gary calls Jasmine crazy, and, Andy is just like, well, I just don't know what the other two women names are. If you happen to know who they are, she, like, describes them, and he ends up giving up the names. And she's like, okay, great, because I'm going to press charges. And he's like, yeah, go ahead and press charges. And I'm like, dang, you really about to have her press charges on the mother of your kids? Who watching these kids? If Jasmine go to jail or whatever, who got custody of the kids? Is Andy ready to be a stepmom? Like, these are just questions that I have. Because if Jasmine goes to jail, that means that Gary will get the kids, even though he still have a pending case. And Andy wants to play stepmom to these kids, even though in this conversation with Gary, she told him that she wants to wait a while before they even have children. But you know what? This is a Tyler Perry show. We're going to let it ride. So now that he's heard that his poor Andy has been, beat up, he's just like, I'm going to go handle this. I'm going to go handle this. She had to tell him like 4 times, no, Gary, don't do it. No, Gary, it's going to be handled by the police. No, Gary. I'm just like, this is annoying. Like, I'm sorry. Every time I see Gary and Andy, I'm just like, I'm over this couple. Y'all are not it. Where is Danny and Preston? I would rather see them. So they start talking about how, he actually told her, we should definitely get married, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I don't know. All I know is that I'm not giving up my career and I'm not moving away, to some random place like he tried to move her off to the last time. And he's like, we can even get a place in the city near Danny's house. And she's like, all right, I know you lying, because nobody wants to, be near Danny because she's so bad, whatever. So, next thing you know, Gary is like, well, can I put the ring on you? She hands him the ring, and he puts the ring on Andy. So basically, they're engaged, and they are just having a glass of wine with each other. And I'm like, oh God, the Gary and Andy saga continues. All right, let's go ahead and talk about this last scene, which is Aaron coming back to Karen's salon, and he's like, oh yeah, I forgot my phone. Keep in mind, we have Pam. She is listening at the door because you can hear Karen and Zach in the other room, which I'm just like, that's a mess in itself because, like, girl, you ain't got no customers coming in. You ain't got no heads to do. Okay, girl. So Aaron is like, yo, I can just grab my phone. Wait, what's that noise? He going to the door. Who does he see? Oh yeah, he see his girl getting banged up against the wall by Zach. I said, oh Lord, no. Like, Karen, I'm sorry, but you can go ahead and kiss Aaron goodbye. I just don't want to see this storyline continue with, oh, but I really wanted to be with Aaron, but he wouldn't let me have sex with him, blah, blah, blah. Like, no. Like, Karen, you was wrong for this one, girl. You were wrong. So, with that being said, I don't want to see her chasing after Aaron, and I don't want to see Aaron and trying to make it work with Karen. Nope, let's just find her somebody new. Let's let Aaron go away, bring in somebody new. Karen, you messed it up. As far as Zach goes, Zach is trash because why are you out here playing with Fatima if you still really wanted to be with Karen? Let's go ahead and let that go as well, and let that be that. Alright guys, let me know what you guys thought about this episode. I know this review is so delayed, but don't let it be denied. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye guys.